After spending 7 years in prison, Jake Green, a gambler from London, is finally released. 2 years later, he and his brother Billy visit a prominent casino with the goal of reclaiming money owed to them by Dorothy Macha, a crime lord. Ignoring his bodyguard Paul's warnings, Macha allows Jake to join his private game. On the way to the game room, Jake hesitates to use the elevator due to his claustrophobia, but the other bodyguards convince him by reminding him that the alternative is climbing 20 floors. Jake reluctantly takes the elevator and battles a panic attack. Jake's first wager is a coin flip against another player, which he intentionally loses to deceive Macha into feeling overly confident. When he bets against Macha, he wins. Billy and Jake quickly leave the casino with bags full of cash. As they exit, they are stopped by a man named Zach who warns them of impending danger and offers his assistance, handing Jake his business card. Jake decides to take the stairs this time, but collapses after reading Zach's card, which says, "Take the elevator." Jake is taken to the hospital, while Macha confides in Paul, fearing that Jake seeks serious revenge after 7 years in prison, particularly due to an incident involving his sister-in-law. Macha instructs Paul to hire the best hitman available to eliminate Jake. At the hospital, Jake is informed that no immediate cause for his blackout is evident, so he should go home and rest while waiting for blood test results. Billy heads to his own place while Jake, accompanied by his bodyguards, is ambushed and they are all shot upon arrival. Jake narrowly escapes harm as he bends down to pick up a card on the floor that says, "Pick this up." As he tries to flee in his car, the driver is shot, but Zach arrives just in time to rescue him and take him to safety. The hitman, Sorter, is baffled by his miss since it's never happened before and suspects someone must have warned Jake. To Macho, though, Sorter excuses his failure by saying he had a bad premonition. Zach then introduces Jake to his partner, Avi, who has somehow obtained Jake's medical records. The results show Jake has a rare blood disease that will kill him within 3 days. Zach and Avi offer Jake their protection with non-negotiable conditions. Jake must give them all his money and comply with everything they ask, including answering any of their questions. They give him 3 hours to decide, but Jake leaves without responding, suspecting they are trying to deceive him. When Jake gets the same results at the hospital, he still believes the lab might have been bribed by Zach and Avi, so he seeks a second opinion from his personal doctor, who also confirms the same grim diagnosis. After threatening Jake with a gun to ensure he wasn't also being paid, Jake admits he has no other option. He withdraws money from the bank and returns to agree to the men's terms. As they head out for a ride, Avi reveals they're loan sharks and will be using Jake's money for their loans. Upon visiting their first client to deliver the money, Avi insists Jake recount his history with Macha. Macha previously employed 3 very foolish men known as the Three Eddies. When they lost their card player before a major game, they knew Jake was a skilled player and asked him to step in. Although Jake wanted to refuse, they threatened Billy's family, forcing Jake to accept to safeguard them. During the game, the other players began insulting Jake and his mother. Jake couldn't tolerate this and initiated a gunfight. The power went out, the money vanished, and Jake soon found himself being interrogated by the police after someone mentioned his name. To stop him from talking, they threatened his niece and accidentally killed his sister-in-law as she tried to protect her daughter. Jake didn't reveal to the police that Macha organized the games and ended up serving 7 years in prison. During his incarceration, the Eddies angered Macha in some manner, leading him to dispose of them by using them as cement. After seeing multiple clients, Zach tells Jake to stay at a motel. At the same time, Macha and Paul visit crime boss Sam Gold, who is highly respected by other crime lords. However, Gold never meets with people directly, so they talk to his advisor, Lily Walker. She agrees to arrange a powder deal with Macha and warns him that Gold hates attention and doesn't give second chances. Later on, Jake plays chess with Avi and gives him more money. Avi asks about Jake's prison experience. Jake explains he had 2 choices: 14 years in the general prison population or 7 years in solitary confinement. He chose solitary. His cell was between a chess master and a con man who had been there for a long time. They never spoke face to face but knew each other well. For the first 5 years, they communicated by writing in library books, teaching Jake their secret formula to win any game. The chess master and the con man planned an escape and promised to take Jake with them. But when they finally escaped, they disappeared without a trace, leaving Jake behind. When Jake was released 2 years later, he found out they had taken all his money and left a note saying, "You can only get smarter by playing a smarter opponent." Using their formula, Jake became rich through gambling at various casinos. With each passing day, Jake continues visiting different clients and giving away his own money. He's also expected to intimidate them if they don't pay, but he can't bring himself to harm innocent, desperate people. Meanwhile, Avi and Zach attach a chain from a truck to a wall, planning to pull it down and access the safe behind it. This safe contains the powder Macha had promised Lily. When Macha discovers the robbery, he orders Paul to resolve it at any cost. Paul approaches their rival, Triad leader Lord John, who agrees to supply the powder on short notice but at an exorbitant price. Jake, Zach, Avi, and their crew head to the hotel where the exchange is set to occur. They sneak into the room next to the thugs, bore a hole in the wall, and release sleeping gas, knocking out Macha's and John's men. They then steal the money and the powder, setting it up to make it look like Macha robbed John and vice versa. Eventually, Jake receives a call from Billy, who warns him that Zach and Avi are so dangerous that even gold avoids them, advising Jake to leave. Ignoring the warning, Jake resumes his work, where he's faced with the task of shooting a terrified client. He refuses and attempts to shoot Avi instead, but realizes the gun is empty moments before Avi knocks him unconscious. Jake wakes up hours later in the motel and receives a call from Avi, informing him that he's survived his third day and should get a checkup. After a visit from his niece and Billy, who leaves a gun with him for safety, Jake visits his doctor. The doctor confirms that the initial diagnosis was incorrect and Jake is, in fact, healthy. Jake tries to call Avi demanding explanations, but Avi responds that he'll have to be patient. Meanwhile, Paul has been gathering intel and discovers Jake's involvement in his men's troubles. Consequently, Macha orders Paul's men to eliminate Jake. When Jake returns to the motel, Avi and Zach are there and warn him that Macha's thugs are waiting inside for him. Jake flees, and the thugs pursue him. During the chase, one thug accidentally shoots himself, and the others assume Jake killed him. Jake heads to Avi and Zach's office, where they reveal they have known all along that Jake wasn't completely honest about his past dealings with the Eddies. Those three had been waiting for Jake to get out of prison to kill him because his actions had caused them to be fired by Macha. To save himself, he proposed a deal to the Eddies. Every month, he would give them 3% of any money they lent him. Initially, only one Eddie took the offer. However, once they saw he was trustworthy, they all wanted in, this time demanding 4%. In reality, Jake was using one Eddie's money to pay another, so he wasn't losing any of his own cash. Eventually, the Eddies ran out of money to lend and had to borrow from Macha. Macha quickly grew curious about the Eddies' mysterious money source. After gambling with the formula and becoming wealthy, Jake decided to take a trip with his brother and niece. During this time, Macha killed the Eddies for failing to repay him. While Macha was having dinner at a fancy restaurant, his henchmen informed him that Jake had escaped. Sorter noticed John's lover disguised as a waitress and shot her before leaving to pursue her driver. He missed his mark, and she was only injured. Before dying, the woman managed to shoot off one of Macha's fingers amidst the chaos. Sorter was then dispatched to Lord John's hideout to kill him and his men. Meanwhile, Jake was still chatting with Zach and Avi as they played golf on a rooftop. They inform him that gold isn't real. He's merely a symbol of ego and greed, holding power only over those who believe in him. Jake realizes he must change what influences him. Afterward, Jake withdraws his money from the bank and donates it all before secretly entering Macha's bedroom. Battling the voices in his head, which symbolize his ego, Jake apologizes to Macha for deceiving him, acknowledges Macha as the superior crime lord, and tells him he has made a donation in Macha's name before leaving. To face his fears, Jake takes an elevator which gets stuck on the 13th floor. Struggling with a panic attack, Jake has an internal dialogue where he rejects his ego, ultimately freeing himself from its control. When the elevator resumes operation, Jake reaches the ground floor to find an armed Macha whose own ego has driven him mad. Jake, now at peace, calmly walks past Macha, further enraging him as he can't comprehend Jake's lack of fear. Macha is left in tears, realizing his humiliation. The next morning, Paul presents Macha with local newspapers featuring his name prominently. Jake had indeed made a donation in Macha's name, leading the public to believe the casino owner cares about the community. Macha basks in this recognition briefly before Paul informs him that Jake has the powder and has been manipulating them all along. Paul, Sorter, and Macha's other lackeys go to see Billy. Sensing betrayal from one of his guards, Billy hides his daughter in a cupboard. Once found, the men start beating him while questioning him, convinced he's lying about not knowing where Jake and the powder are. Paul's torture methods become more severe, making Sorter uneasy, especially when they discover the daughter hiding and bring her out. Sorter, refusing to harm a child, abandons his loyalty to his ego and methodically kills his fellow henchman, but slips up at the end and is killed as well. Meanwhile, Lily visits Macha, bringing a wreath from Gold. Gold is displeased with Macha's media presence, as he dislikes publicity. Lily informs Macha that his time is up and he won't get another chance, sending him into a panic. Avi and Zach take Jake and the powder to Macha's casino, where Avi wins a chess game against Jake while revealing final details of their story. Avi and Zach had been in adjacent cells to Jake, hoping to bring him along, but Jake hadn't been ready to face the truth. They were merely figments of his imagination. Jake has no time to process this revelation as the casino's guards take him to Macha, who is holding his niece. Dropping the bags of powder on the floor, Jake reassures his niece that everything will be all right, enraging Macha since Jake remains unafraid even with a gun pointed at the child. Feeling humiliated, Macha's ego voices convince him that Jake cannot harm a dead man. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell if you want to watch more videos like this. Thank you for watching and see you again soon. Take care.